right, thank you. I'm to speak from the perspective of a classroom teacher, 23 years high school math. But I want to put this in context because it's part of a very large, complex system with the federal role of policies, rules, regulations from the Department of Education as well as Congress. We have 50 state affiliates, 50 states with boards of education and legislatures, and 15,000 school districts. Now, the purpose of this huge system is student success for every single student. But we have to know how we're going to measure that. We have to know on what basis. Now, for the last 12 years, that has been defined, that structure has been defined by No Child Left Behind. Very simply, it requires a standardized test given to every student in grades 3 through 8 once a year in math and language arts. What it doesn't measure is math, English, and science that they take all through their 4 years of high school. Doesn't talk about history or social studies, government or civics, physical education, foreign language, arts, drama, dance, and music, whether it be instrumental or vocal. It does all of that, and they think about this. Do you really think that you know whether a system is delivering when you ignore all of that? But its main purpose is evaluation. First of all, of students. Do you know that we have close to 30 million students now who have gone through grades 3 through 8 under No Child Left Behind? Close to 30 million kids. And what we're finding, what they believe is that we can individually measure and evaluate every single student. And then, in a simple mathematical problem, if we just add up all the scores in a class, divide by the number of students, we have a number for the class. And we can do that for the school and the district and even an entire state. And we can use those same test scores, grades 3 through 8, math, language, art, to evaluate all teachers. All teachers. And if we can evaluate an individual teacher, then we can also, just by adding them up, we can, through state laws and federal regulation, we can not only determine the competence of a teacher, but we can determine how to pay them and their their employment status, and even determine the quality of a college of education. We can do all of that with simply testing kids once a year on one day. Now, the good news for me is that system is crumbling. It's not a question of if, it is only a question of when. It will fall down. Those 30 million students have not been delivered to. They are not getting what they need. The gaps are widening. Parents are rebelling across this country. Last year, there were 1,800 opt-outs in New York. This year, 20,000. How many next? And what parents are realizing is for a decade, the promises of those tests are not delivering for their kids. It gives them no information about what they know or don't know and what intervention is necessary for that child to succeed. Principals and teachers, by the way, teachers are not opposed to tests. We invented them. In 23 years, I never went a week without giving a test or a quiz, but I graded them that night and I passed them out the next day. And the students and I knew what we needed to do differently in order for them to succeed. Superintendents in Texas, over 85% signed petitions saying, this is crazy, we're over-testing. State legislatures are starting to understand that you cannot make high-stakes decisions on this using those test scores. It doesn't make sense. Researchers, you can't go a week without finding another study showing that value added doesn't work. You simply cannot, based on research, determine the individual impact of a single teacher on a class or a student based on those scores. And even the judges are talking about it. We had a court case in Florida. Sadly, we lost it because the law was ruled constitutional. But the court did say, quote, the court would be hard-pressed to convince anyone that this is a fair evaluation system or be subjected to it themselves. So what do we do? And amongst all of this stuff, we've got the Common Core state standards and the implementation. And Tom was right. Those standards do nothing in and of themselves. Those standards, one colleague from School Board Association said, imagine a football field with all the lines laid out. Those are the standards. It just tells you what a student needs to know and be able to do. What the challenge is how do you move students all the way to the other goal? Every student. So if they're gone, the big question is, what do we replace it with? Those standards are well done. We as an organization support them from the beginning and still do. We believe they're well written and they're extremely important, and the power of the promise is incredible. But even in and of themselves, they cannot do anything. And what I believe we have to really focus on is, instead of an accountability system defined as some test score given on one day of the year, we need accountability for the system. Tom's point that those standards won't do it by themselves, he's absolutely right. What we need is accountability for the whole system. School readiness. Who's responsible? Who is accountable for ensuring that every student, regardless of where they live, has a fair shot at success in school? Standards and curriculum. We need good standards. It shouldn't make any difference if you grow up in Mississippi, Michigan, or Massachusetts. What do you need to know and be able to do? And then a curriculum. It was mentioned. We don't have a line curriculum. We need to do that. Another one is the learning and teaching conditions. I was in a school a week ago in New Jersey, 300 kids in a K-2 school, 2 floors. There are 2 bathrooms in the basement, one for the boys, one for the girls. There's a long hallway, and that's where the students pick up their food. There are 2 refrigerated units and a closet with an oven in it. And when it rains, that hallway floods. Really, you could take the most talented surgeon in the world, take him or her out of the operating room with good lights, sterile, anesthesiologists, scrub nurses, and then see if they do the same job as when they're in the operating room. It's crazy that we tolerate that system. Workforce quality. I am ready to stand with anyone who wants to get back to having a profession of teaching, that there are no shortcuts. If I decide to be a doctor today, they don't say, well, you've got 46 years of experience. I guess we don't have to have you go through these hoops. No, you have to have them. And then it's the only profession in teaching where you don't have to be licensed to practice. Where is the accountability for people who put untrained, uncertified, and unlicensed teacher as the teacher of record for your son or daughter or grandkid? Why do we tolerate that system? And whose responsibility is it to ensure equity? Saturday, 60 years since Brown v. Board of Education. Separate and unequal is wrong, and it's there today. And the last one is resources. You can't say you want the world for every child and deny them the resources. So from the classroom, we need help. We need help with the system, and there needs to be accountability for the entire system, not just for me as a classroom teacher. Thank you.